So this is the Derya DY9. Now, a couple of the biggest things I liked about the DY9 was how well it fit in my hand, and it was extremely flat shooting. And this is the DY9 Island. And if you're wondering what's the difference between the regular DY9 and the DY9 Island, that would be that right there. So let's head out to the range, test out this new DY9 Island, and have some fun. Alright, before we start this range review, I want to get a few things out of the way first. I want to give a big shout out to Pursuit Armory. They are a local gun store right here in my hometown, and they are now handling all the FFL transfers for the channel. And the second shout out I want to give is to Copper Jacket Arms. And if you're not familiar with this company, my good buddy Matt from the RTT Guns and Gear channel, him and one of his friends decided to start an online store. And all the ammo that we're going to be using in this video today, minus my reloads, can be picked up from Copper Jacket Arms. In fact, all the MagTech 115 grain ammo we're using in this video, I picked up over at Copper Jacket Arms. Alright, I want to clarify something real quick. That was actually a bad round. As you can see, I've got a nice hard hit right on that primer, and it did not go off. So it wasn't the magazine and it wasn't the gun. Definitely the ammo. I've run a lot of MagTech ammo. I've never had issues with it, but that is a very hard primer strike. So definitely a bad primer. All right, here we go. We got all alphas. We got all our hits on steel. And we've got all our hits on this piece of steel. And our last target. We got all alphas, but we got a Charlie right there. And I've also already put out a full unboxing video. We went over all the specs, everything that comes in the box, and the differences between the Island and the original DY9. So a lot of that stuff is not going to be covered in this video today. This is strictly just the range review and my thoughts on this firearm. And I'm also in the process of filming a third video where we are going to actually compare the original DY9 to the Island. We're going to go over the recoil impulse, how big a difference the porting on the Island makes over the original. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe because that video will be coming out shortly after this one. Alright, our first target, we got all alphas, but we do have one Charlie. We got all our hits on steel, and we got all our hits on our next piece of steel. This target's a little ugly. We got 4 alphas, and we've got 2 Charlies. So when you get this DY9 Island, you can get it in a few different configurations. You can get the complete pistol. You also have the option, if you already have an original DY9 like I do, you can go to Derya's website and order just the complete slide. Because in the unboxing video, I explained to you that there is zero difference between the frames on the original and the Island. And you can also pick up the DY9 Island kit, like I have. And I'm going to bring a picture up on the screen so you can see everything that comes in the box. Technically, it's an ammo can. And if you choose to go with this option, you'll actually get 3 15-round Glock-style magazines, and these magazines are made by Derya. Now, the optic that I chose to put on the Island is the Aimwin PE320, and I will be releasing a full review video on this optic. And speaking of the optic, one of the differences between the Island slide and the original slide was that the original slide comes with optic mounting plates, where with the Island slide, this actually has a direct mount for optics with the RMR footprint, which I personally thought was a big improvement over the original, because I would always rather mount my optic directly to the slide than have to mount a plate to the slide and then the optic to the plate. Now let's start talking about the Island slide, and this is where all the magic happens. So if you look here at the top, you've got 4 ports right in the top of the barrel, and the slide is cut out right here for those ports, where with the original it looks like this. And this is supposed to provide a 25% reduction in recoil. Now, I really don't have a way to prove if that is true, but I can tell you, after putting over 500 rounds through the original DY9, that you can tell a significant difference with this. And like I said in the original DY9 review video, this guide rod and recoil spring system has a lot to do with why the original shot so flat. But when you take this guide rod and spring and pair it up with this barrel, it definitely shoots super flat. Now, there's quite a bit more going on with this slide other than just the Island ported barrel. And that is going to be not only the lightning cuts, but the slide serrations themselves. This has some really deep slide serrations cut into the front and the back of the slide. And one other thing I want to point out is if you look at the front of the slide, you can actually see through those lightning cuts and see the barrel. And even though the back looks the same, these are not opened up, because exposing all the internal parts in the back of the slide would not be a good thing. And speaking of the lightning cuts and the serrations on the slide, these are very usable. They are cut in nice and deep. It's very easy to rack the slide from the front or the back if you don't have an optic on. Where with the original, these weren't cut in very deep and they are kind of slippery. So I definitely prefer the serrations on the Island over this one. Now the sights here on the back are exactly the same as the original. You have fiber optic green inserts on the rear sight, but the front sight is completely different. It is just a blacked out, very skinny front sight, where on the original, the front sight is just a little bit wider and it has a fiber optic orange rod in it. So let's dive into the frame on the DY9 Island. And like I said, the frames are exactly the same. There's different color options. This is obviously all black. The original is the gray. I do believe they have FDE and OD green. Now the frame is super easy to configure to your hand size because it does come with 4 different back straps. You have small, medium, large, and extra large. They are very easy to swap out. You do have to remove the magwell. It has a screw right here. You take that out, and then you will punch your pin out right here, swap out your back straps, and put it back together. And speaking of the magwell and the frame, I said this in the original review video, that this gun fits my hands very well, and I have very big hands. I can get a full grip on that frame. My pinky sits very nice right here on the top of the magwell, and this gun is just super comfortable in my hand. And a lot of that has to do with that very nice undercut there on the trigger guard. Now, as far as the gun feels in your hand, a lot of people have said that they don't really care too much for the texture or lack of on the frame. And when I first looked at it, I thought the same thing. But once you get this gun in your hand, it will definitely change your mind. So on the side here, you do have a very sandpapery texture. And then here on the back, you have some serrations on that back strap. You have the same serrations on the front and on the front of the trigger guard. And I've done all my reviews here in Ohio in August and September, and the temperatures are pretty hot right now. And even with my sweaty hands at the range, not having any issues holding on to the gun. One other thing that I really like they did with the frame is you have that same sandpaper texture like you do on the sides up here on your thumb ledge, gas pedal, whatever you want to call it. And they have recessed that in a little bit so it is like a true thumb ledge. And you can get a really good grip on this, which with everything else going on with this gun, that also helps with the recoil. One other thing that I want to point out too is this is not a Gen 3 clone. This is a Gen 4 Glock clone, which being a left-handed shooter, I really like that because the magazine release on this is reversible. And as you can see, I've got mine switched around so I can drop my mag with my thumb. And the magazines do drop very nice and freely out of the frame. And the last thing that we'll talk about on the frame is you do have an accessory rail out here on the front. I've run the Streamlight TLR1 HL on this and the Harbor Freight clone. The Streamlight TLR7 HLX, which is the more compact light. But like I said, I've tested 4 different lights on this, and they all fit the accessory rail on the Island. All right, now I want to talk about the trigger on the Island. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that this gun is clear. No mag, nothing in the chamber. Now the trigger itself is pretty awesome. You do have your red trigger safety here, or dingus, whatever you want to call it. That's your take up. It's very smooth. It's not gritty at all. Take up, right there's your wall, and you get a nice clean break. No creep, no anything. As soon as you hit that wall, it's going to break. And the reset on this is actually pretty impressive too. Very short, very tactile and audible reset, and it kind of forces your finger forward, but they did a really good job on the trigger. Now that we have about 400 rounds racked up on this gun, let's see what kind of trigger pull we're getting now. So we're right about the same as we were in the unboxing, right between 5 1/4 and 5.5 pounds. Now let's talk about the mag compatibility. And like I said at the beginning of the video, it does come with 3 15-round Glock 19 style mags. So pretty much all of your Glock 19 mags are going to work, your Glock 17 mags, even the stick mags if you want to run them. As far as the mags I've tested in this, these are all the Glock 19 mags I've tested. I've done Magpul, the factory Glock mag, a Men 2, the new Mekgar metal mags, the X-Tech 19 mags, and the X-Tech 17 mags. All of those mags run flawless, and so do the 3 15-round mags that it comes with. I've had 0 issues with magazines in this one and the original. Now, there are going to be certain base plates and mag extensions that may not work due to the magwell. So just keep that in mind. You may run into some issues with some of the different base plates and mag extensions. So let's dive into the pros and cons on the Island. And we've already pretty much gone over all the pros. And honestly, I have very few cons with this gun because, well, I didn't hardly have any cons with the original. I think the biggest con for me is just that I would like to see some more of the texturing up here like we have on the sides of the frame. It's just a little slippery up towards the top of the frame. But if you look here, you've got this nice cutout right here, and my thumb just sits perfect right there. So I do like that. I just would like to see some stippling right there. And my other con with this gun is just the fact I wished it had an ambi slide stop, but that's not an issue with this gun. It's an issue with any Glock Gen 3 or Gen 4 clone. Now, one other con for some people is going to be the price. You can pick up the original DY9 for right around 300 beans, where with the Island, it is going to cost you right under 600 beans, which I still think is a great price. As reliable as it is and as flat as it shoots, it's a pretty awesome deal. And the fact that it comes with 3 magazines, because a lot of guns nowadays, you're lucky if you get 1, especially the imported guns. But the plus side to that is, if you're kind of on a budget and you want to get the DY9, well, you can go to the gun store, pick up the original one, and shoot it and enjoy it while you're saving up the money to buy the slide. Because, in all honesty, that's what I was going to do originally, but Derya was nice enough to send this out for a review, so I did not have to do that. So that's a cool option that you have. The other big plus with this is reliability. The thing ran 100%. We did have that one round not go off, but like I said, we determined that that was just a bad primer in that MagTech ammo. And honestly, I had no issues with that MagTech ammo the rest of the day. The other big plus to this is now you have the option to direct mount an optic with the RMR footprint right to the slide, where with the original, you had to use a mounting plate. Now, the next thing it's going to come up in the comments, because it happens every time you do a video on a gun that has a comp or a ported barrel, is you're going to get that guy or that girl out there in the comments that says, I would never use that for carry because it's going to be shooting flames out of the top of the barrel and I'm not going to be able to see. I've heard this so many times. And the funny part is most of the people that make that comment, it's because they heard it on the internet and they've never actually fired a gun or trained with a gun after dark. And I can tell you this, I don't care what gun you shoot, if you're shooting after dark, flames are going to come out of your barrel, whether it comes out of the front or it comes out of the top. And I have shot plenty of guns after dark, testing lights, and I have had zero issues with a gun that has no ports and a gun that has ports. So when you hear that nonsense, just don't listen to it. You're always going to have flames coming out of the gun, coming out of the end of the barrel. You're going to have flames coming out of the chamber. It's just the way it is when you shoot after dark. It's just something that you have to train and adapt to. And I've done enough night shooting now that it doesn't bother me one bit. Now, once we get the third video done where we're going to put this gun head to head with the original, both of these guns are going to have right around 1,000 rounds on them. And at the end of that video, I will actually give you my recommendation if this is a good carry option. So I really want to thank Derya for sending this out to the channel. And one other thing I want to say about Derya is if you go back and watch my unboxing video on the original or the review and the unboxing on the Island, you will see that Derya has been out there in the comments section of all 3 of those videos answering questions for my subscribers. They are very proud of this gun, and honestly, I can't blame them. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.